Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the South Hills, also known as Sunnyhill. We are so delighted you could join us here today, whether you're in the house or in your house. Our mission here at Sunnyhill is to create a more just and compassionate community within and beyond our walls. My name is Bradley Convis, and I'm pleased to serve as a worship associate for this congregation. If you are a newcomer or visitor to our congregation, please go to sunnyhill.org and click on the button that says New to Sunnyhill. There you can receive more information about our congregation and sign up to receive our weekly email newsletter blast. Also, if you'd like to be greeted as a newcomer, please take a red coffee mug, and then people will know to seek you out and make sure you are warmly welcomed. If you're joining us online today, welcome. Please say hello or good morning in the comments feed so that we can respond to you. We'd love to hear from you and extend a welcome. For all those who are here in person, a gentle reminder about your electronic devices. Please silence or turn them off so that we're not disturbed by buzzing or ringing. Today's service is titled Helped, Heard, Hugged. We all sometimes struggle with what to say or do when a friend, family member, or church member is going through a hard time. This service will focus on a few specific guidelines for how to be truly helpful in such situations. And speaking of which, I have a brief announcement from the Sunnyhill Sharing Circles program.
Good morning. I'm Bill Harvey, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about sharing circles. I began attending Sunnyhill services regularly a little over 6 years ago, right about the time I retired. Before my retirement, my life focused almost exclusively on my work and my family. Most of my social connections were focused in the same two areas. At the same time, I was losing connection with certain of my other parts of my life. My work was over, my kids were gone. This left me adrift. I also was losing connection with some of the tenets of my religion, my former religion, and I was looking for a place to go, so I chose Sunnyhill. The Sunnyhill services were engaging and uplifting, but after about a year of regularly going, and despite the welcoming attitude of Sunnyhillers, I didn't feel a real spiritual or social connection to my fellow worshipers. I think it was Bethany who suggested that I join a sharing circle. So I joined my first sharing circle in September of 2019. And I have been involved in sharing circles either as a participant or as a facilitator ever since. I chose to become a sharing circle participant primarily to meet Sunnyhillers and to feel more connected with them. Meeting them in a small group setting seemed less intimidating than diving into a noisy after-service crowd. I saw sharing circles as a first step to getting more involved in Sunnyhill, the Sunnyhill community, and I also hope to begin integrating some of the ideas that Jim expressed on Sunday and some of the feelings that Jim's words evoked in me into my daily life, and I thought sharing circles might help me do that. The sharing circles I've participated in share the same format. About 3 to 4 weeks before our monthly meetings, I receive the meeting materials created and published by Soul Matters, an organization that supports sharing circles in many UU congregations. The materials focus on a monthly theme. They contain an introduction, a set of suggested spiritual exercises, a set of questions, and they also contain companion pieces, quotes, internet links to related materials. Participants can spend as much time on the materials as they deem appropriate. Each sharing group determines how best to use the materials. Each meeting normally consists of 3 parts: a short check-in period, where in 1 or 2 sentences you just say how you've been. And then the second part is where individuals share their experiences in performing the spiritual exercises. The third part is a discussion of a question that the members of the group have picked as their specific question. I now look forward to each meeting in sharing circles, and I enjoy the quiet acceptance that each member gives me as I talk about my experiences. And I enjoy giving to each member my quiet listening as they discuss their experiences. I find that the calm, quiet space that exists in each meeting allows me to dispense with superficialities and express things that are more deeply felt. Most of the new friends that I now have at Sunnyhill I've met as a result of my participating in sharing circles. I've become involved in other groups and Sunnyhill activities as an offshoot of my participating in sharing circles. I have noticed that my involvement in each monthly theme and my performance of a spiritual exercise as part of that theme has given me a slightly different perspective each month and has allowed me to be more focused, more open, and more aware. I have nothing but good to say about my experience with sharing circles. So we have a sharing circle table after the meeting that you can talk to in more depth to us, to people who would be manning the table. And I believe we're going to be having sign-ups after service. So hope to see some of you there. Thank you.
Our opening words today were written by Tanya Marquez. It's a wonder and a mystery that our paths have crossed. In the immensity of time, in the vastness of space, we coincide here. I'm in awe in the ways in which our lives intersect and intertwine, at the beauty we create when we are together. May our coming together make us more compassionate, more just, more caring, and more loving. May our hearts and minds be open to this offering. I'm so glad you're here. Let us worship. Let us marvel at the miracle of being here, right now, and the mystery that has brought us together. Please join me in saying the words to light our chalice. May the light of our chalice illuminate the beauty. Oops, I don't have a slide for you. You're just going to have to believe me. Okay, say after me. May the light of our chalice illuminate the beauty that we create each time we gather. Good job.
To join in singing, "Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing," and there are words. Come Thou Fount of every blessing, tune our hearts to sing Thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. While the hope of Christ's perfection fills our hearts with joy and love, teach us ever to be faithful. May we still Thy goodness prove. Come Thou Fount of every vision, lift our eyes to what may come. See the lion and the young lamb dwell together in Thy home. Hear the cries of poor fall silent, feel our love glow like the sun. When we all serve one another, then our heaven is begun. Come Thou Fount of inspiration, turn our lives to higher ways. Lift our gloom and desperation, show the promise of this day. Help us bind ourselves in union, help our hands tell of our love. With Thine aid, O Fount of justice, earth be fair as heaven above. Thank you. Please be seated.
Good morning. If there are any kiddos present that want to come up for our time for all ages, now is your chance. Good morning. I know we have more. Come on up. All right, friends. So I'm telling the story. They're not telling the story. If you want to look at them, that's fine. Hi. You want to hear the story? Yeah? Okay, let's do it. So this story comes to us from India. Have you ever seen images of elephant families holding on to one another in a line from trunk to trail? Has anyone ever seen that before? No? It's pretty amazing. Having a close family is really amazing for elephants and for humans too. But sometimes that isn't always possible to have a close family. That was the case for one elephant who lived a life of luxury in a kingdom. His stable was magnificent. It had walls of marble and a bedding of the finest hay. He had a caregiver that was responsible just for him alone, a mahout. He would care for his every physical need. Imagine it, daily spa treatments in mud, as much fresh bananas and oranges and acacia leaves that he could eat, and always an elephant-sized sugar cube for dessert. Wow. On the outside, it seemed this elephant had it all, except one very important thing, a friend. The elephant was just so lonely, and he spent most of his day in his magnificent stable of marble, all alone. Meanwhile, right outside of the royal stable was a skinny, scrawny, mangy dog that lurked alone in the shadows. That poor pup rarely had enough food to eat, but there was one thing that gave him hope every day. He knew when he saw the mahout, the elephant's caregiver, he would at least be able to find some crumbs for himself. The elephant was kind of a messy eater. One day, the stable door was left slightly opened, just enough for that skinny, scrawny dog to squeeze through. He watched and wondered what he should do. Would the elephant even notice that the door was opened? Nope. But the dog surely noticed, especially as the massive elephant was eating and, as usual, getting his crumbs everywhere. The dog was drooling as he watched the morsels of food drop to the ground. His belly quaked with hunger until he found enough courage to creep into the stable. Somehow, the elephant didn't seem to notice him. At least he didn't seem to. But for a brief second, the elephant smirked and continued on eating. The dog was too busy licking up all those crumbs to see the smirk, and when he finished, he snuck back out the door. The next day, the door was once again left slightly open, and the elephant was even messier, with his crumbs falling all over the floor as he ate. With each passing day, the elephant dropped more and more crumbs. With each passing day, the dog grew healthier and livelier. Finally, one day, the elephant looked down at the dog. The dog looked up at him, slightly lurched over like he knew he did something wrong. My dog, his name's Mr. Bojangles. He gives me the same look when I catch him eating cat food. Do you ever see dogs where they're like, that's the look? What do you think? Was the elephant angry? No. The elephant was delighted. He reached out his long trunk and wrapped it around the dog in a warm embrace. That night, the two creatures slept side by side, cuddling right next to each other. This continued day after day, with the elephant and the dog sharing food and sharing stories. The mahout finally realized that the dog had been making his way into the stable after he left, but he didn't mind. It sure was a lot cleaner with the dog cleaning up all those crumbs. This might have continued on in this happy way until the mahout learned about a visiting merchant looking for a canine companion. He immediately thought of the dog and how he thought he needed a human to care for him. He put the dog on a leash and brought him to the merchant, who was delighted with the dog's shiny coat and healthy good looks, and quickly adopted him. The mahout continued to care for the elephant as usual, but he started to languish immediately. He had just as much delicious food as ever, just as many spa treatments as ever, but the elephant seemed to lose interest in everything. He was just so sad, and the mahout had no idea why. The word spread about the elephant and how he seemed so down. Even the king heard about it and began to worry. He called on his advisor for help. At the stable, the advisor checked in the elephant's ears and throat. She checked his temperature and his pulse. There was absolutely no indication that the elephant was sick. But one look in his eyes made it clear to the advisor. The elephant was grieving. The king called for the mahout, who suddenly remembered the dog, but he had no idea how to get back in touch with the merchant. The king issued a proclamation for the dog to be returned to the royal stable at once. Somehow, news spread to the visiting merchant about the dog, and boy, was he relieved. That dog that he adopted had been crying nonstop since the day he left town. When he was back in the kingdom, the dog immediately perked up and raced to the elephant's stable. What do you think? Was the elephant happy to see his friend? Yes, absolutely. He pulled himself up off the floor and wrapped his trunk around the dog once again. They did not leave each other's side from that day forward. Within a few days, the elephant's appetite returned, and his eyes glimmered with joy once again. You see, having a friend beside him was exactly the medicine he needed. Sometimes, having a caring person there for you is some of the best medicine you can find. The end. And with that, we will head to our RE class.
As you go, may joy surround you. As you go, go in peace. Know our love is with you always. As you go, as you go, as you go, may joy surround you. As you go in peace. Know our love is with you always.
As you go, as you go. These hands will do the work, these feet will carry me, these arms will be welcoming to what these eyes can see. This mind will stay open to the possibility, and the love in this heart will set me free. These hands will do the work, these feet will carry me, these arms will be welcoming to what these eyes can see. This mind will stay open to the possibility, and the love in this heart will set me free.
These hands will do the work, these feet will carry me, these arms will be welcoming to what these eyes can see.
These hands will do the work,
open to
these feet will carry me, these arms will be welcoming to what these eyes can see. This mind will stay open to the possibility, and the love in this heart will set me free. These hands will do the work, these feet will carry me, these arms will be welcoming to what these eyes can see. This mind will stay open to the possibility, and the love in this heart will set me free.
Good morning. My name is Joseph Barker, and I'm a member of Sunnyhill's pastoral care team. Our mission as a team is to reach out to members of the congregation who are going through challenging or significant life events, whatever they may be. It's our personal connections with each other that offers each of us a kind of loving presence, and that is what binds our Sunnyhill community together. The pastoral care team is here for you. If you'd like to know more, please seek me out after the service in the fellowship hall. We're adding an additional component to the pastoral care team to assist folks that would like to access us. And it involves a note to the pastoral care team. I don't know why I'm showing this to you. You can't read it, but I thought it was kind of a neat thing to do. It says on the note, and today you can find these notes next to the sharing circle table. In the future, they will be at the table at the right of the fellowship hall where you sign in for new name tags. And so the note will say, if something is weighing on your mind, the pastoral care team is available to listen and for conversation. Our team members have training in how to be a caring, listening presence for the members of the congregation who are in need of this ministry. Conversations are held in confidence. If you're comfortable, then on the form you would share the nature of your concern, your name, a phone number, and/or an email. And hopefully starting next Sunday, there will be a confidential lockbox so that after you fill the form out, the lockbox will be above that table to the right, and you can leave it there, and the pastoral care team will follow up with you. Each week at this time, we share joys and sorrows submitted by the members of the congregation. Joys and sorrows may be submitted from our website, sunnyhill.org, or by filling out a paper form in the fellowship hall at the table on the right as you enter the hall. After each joy or sorrow that I read, please respond with me by saying, "We hold you in our hearts." We have a joy today from Maddie and Rebecca Senaway. We are so full of gratitude to all of you Sunnyhillers for your generous donations that helped to bring 721 pounds of food and $1,780 to the South Hills Interfaith Ministries. Shim is currently helping more neighbors than ever before, including during the pandemic, so your kindness is truly appreciated. Thank you for being such a strong and supportive part of our community. And oh yes, happy birthday to the greatest dad and grandfather of all time, Grandolph. To Maddie and Rebecca Senaway, we hold you in our hearts. We have a joy and sorrow from Wendy Homorowski this morning. It has been nearly 4 weeks since my husband Jim passed. I would like to express my deepest gratitude for the support I have received from Sunnyhill. Reverend McGraw and Mary Pratt put together a heartfelt memorial. Both the pastoral and caring teams have been wonderful in helping me along this journey. To Wendy, we hold you in our hearts. We have a joy from Shelley Schoenhock. The joy is VJ received a pacemaker on Monday and is at home recuperating. All is well. To Shelley and VJ, we hold you in our hearts. As we sing or listen to our musical meditation, we invite anyone who feels moved to do so to come forward, light a candle, place it in the sand, and then return to your seat.
Find a stillness, hold a stillness. Please join me in the spirit of meditation or prayer. Life sometimes takes us for a roller coaster ride. Takes us through highs and lows, twists and turns, joys and sorrows, frustration and contentment, restless excitement, and bone-crushing boredom. A dizzying series of experiences and emotions coming at us in a way that can result in a kind of life-induced spiritual seasickness. In the midst of these hairpin turns and abrupt rises and falls, how we sometimes long for stillness, for even the briefest reprieve from one thing after the next, tumbling, cascading madly and mindlessly, clattering endlessly down toward no apparent end. When we are able to take just a moment to step off of the ride, to pause its wild motion and simply be here. When we are able to make room for stillness in our heads and in our hearts, what a difference it can make. Let us pause now in silence as we sense both the motion and the stillness of our lives. May we return to this place of stillness again and again. May we experience solace and strength in such moments. And in so doing, may our essence be restored. Amen. I'd like to take a moment of personal privilege to share a joy and sorrow of my own. Since many of you asked and are already aware, we took our daughter, Ella, off to college this week, which is indeed both a joy and a sorrow. So that's very present in my mind today. And Ella especially asked me to say hello to her. She's watching, supposedly, from her dorm room in Columbus. Hello, Ella. So many ups and downs in life, and so many things that are, as I said, both joys and sorrows as part of the human experience. One of the many mythical notions about ministry that I have discovered is this idea that ministers or pastors, at least really good ministers and pastors, always know just the right thing to say. The honest reality, for me at least, is that I never, or almost never, know the right thing to say or do. And if I have this false expectation of myself that I should always know just what to say or do, then that expectation can actually get in the way of my saying or doing anything. When you're trying to find the perfect thing to say, what usually happens is that you end up frozen and not saying anything at all. But even worse than saying nothing at all, what I find is that if I get too hung up on just finding the right words, then I'm actually distancing myself from the person or people in front of me. When I try too hard to say or do the right thing, I'm making the situation about me rather than about the person I'm trying to help. What I'm describing is, of course, true not only about ministers, but about all of us. Because we all find ourselves in situations where we want so much to help a friend or a family member who is in distress or grieving or suffering in some way, but we don't know what to say or do. In a church community like ours, it's something that happens every day. We want to summon forth the magic words that will ease our friends' suffering, that will make things better for them, that will make them feel lifted up by our love and caring. But at the same time, I think we all know that these magic words don't really exist. And that if we wait for those words to appear, the moment will have passed and we will have lost our opportunity to help. And oddly enough, we've all found ourselves, I think, on the other side of that equation as well. We've all found ourselves grieving or struggling with something and had caring, well-intentioned friends approach us who are clearly trying to help us, but who obviously don't know what to say or do. Often in these situations where we ourselves are the person in need and someone reaches out to us somewhat awkwardly, we find ourselves wanting to help them, wanting to take care of their needs, rather than allowing ourselves to receive the love and support that they are trying their best to convey, no matter how unskillful they may be in conveying those things. It's just so hard being human, isn't it? We love one another, but we struggle mightily trying to figure out how to express that love and how to receive it. It's a miracle, honestly, that love finds a way to get through anyway, despite our emotional incompetence. The fact that love does somehow find a way is perhaps the best evidence one can find of something like grace in this world. I was thinking about these things a couple of weeks ago when I read a newspaper article by Jancy Dunn titled "Helped, Heard, or Hugged: What to Ask When Someone You Love is Upset." And I immediately stole that as a sermon title. Dunn writes, "Last September, I got a phone call from my sister Heather, a special education teacher at an elementary school in upstate New York. She had experienced a challenging week. Her pupils were settling into a new school year, but some of them had become agitated in class. What do you do when a kid is emotionally overwhelmed? I asked. Many teachers at her school, she told me, ask students a simple question. Do you want to be helped, heard, or hugged? The choice gives children a sense of control, which is important when they're following school rules all day, Heather said. And all kids handle their emotions differently, she explained. Some need a box of tissues, or they want to talk about a problem they're having on the bus, and I'll just listen. It struck me, Dunn writes, that this question could be just as effective for adults. She continues, each option, an embrace, thoughtful but solicited advice, or an empathetic ear, has the power to comfort and calm. Receiving a hug from your partner increases levels of oxytocin, the bonding hormone, and helps dial down stress. There's evidence that being heard through what's known as high-quality listening can reduce defensiveness during difficult and intimate conversations. One of the key phrases in this description, I think, is solicited advice. Help in the form of unsolicited advice is rarely, if ever, helpful in my experience. When we rush into a situation, giving unsolicited advice, trying to fix things for the other person, we may be acting from our own need to feel some sense of power in a situation where we feel otherwise powerless to help this person. There's nothing diabolical or evil in wanting to regain a sense of power when we feel powerless. In fact, it's entirely natural. But if we want to be truly helpful, then sometimes the best thing we can do, perhaps counterintuitively, is to offer no advice whatsoever. On the other hand, when someone is actually asking for advice and ideas, then it's great to offer them those things as best you can. Even then, however, listening is the first and most important step. Again, from the article by Jancy Dunn, someone who is upset may already be aware of solutions, said Frank Castro, a clinical psychologist in New York and California. But they just may want to sit with feeling frustrated or disappointed before they move on to problem solving. Megan Devine says, speaking of people who are grieving, to be able to say, "This hurts," without being talked out of it, that's what helps. Being heard helps. When we listen, deeply listen to one another, we're not just using our ears. When we're listening deeply, we are engaging each other through eye contact, through undivided attention, and through opening our hearts to the deeper meaning that is being conveyed. And sometimes a warm embrace, when wanted, can get us to that place of caring and feeling cared for much more quickly and directly than any amount of advice or listening can ever do. The tricky part about hugs is that you really must have someone's consent. I hope that we're all aware of how, in our current era especially, physical contact must be something that's mutually agreeable if it's to be at all helpful and not harmful. So, starting with that question, helped, heard, or hugged can be an extremely useful first step when you're trying to express caring and support for someone. A few minutes ago, I started out by talking about how those magic words we're all looking for in situations where we're trying to help someone else, how those magic words don't really exist, how there's no way to figure out the exact right thing to say in these situations. But somehow, people often hear what they need to hear anyway, no matter what we say or don't say, if we are truly present for one another, engaged in high-quality listening. I have a dear friend with whom I went through seminary and the UU minister credentialing process, and I've spoken of it before. It's not an easy journey to become a UU minister. It involves not only academic and intellectual rigor, but also a willingness to engage in constant self-examination, sometimes becoming aware of things that we'd perhaps rather not know about ourselves. And it involves a fair amount of jumping through hoops, some of which make perfect sense, and others of which might seem unnecessary or even unfair. So developing close relationships with others who are going through the same process really becomes essential to getting through it. This particular friend and I spent a great deal of time together, sometimes helping each other in concrete ways, sometimes hearing and being heard, and occasionally sharing an embrace when appropriate. We supported each other in important ways, and it would have been a much harder journey without this mutual support. At the end of the process, after we'd graduated from seminary and finished our credentialing requirements, my friend said to me, "I'm so grateful that you've been there for me, that we've been there for each other. And I'll never forget all those times when I was struggling, and you said to me, 'All will be well.' And in the end, it was." The funny thing is, I know for a fact that I never said to my friend, "All will be well." Not even once. I'm certain about this because at that time I was convinced that that saying, "All will be well," which is a quote from the great Christian mystic Julian of Norwich, was not particularly helpful, though I've since changed my mind about it somewhat. I never said it, but she heard it nonetheless. What does that mean, and how can that have happened? She heard it, I think, not because I said it, but because we were present for each other in such a way that she got what she needed, whether it was ever spoken or not. So maybe there is a little bit of magic involved after all. The magic dwells not in finding the right words to say, but in being there, fully present to another human being, in all our struggles and in all our sometimes awkward reaching out to help and to be helped. The magic, if it exists at all, is a result of the act of reaching out. But we all need to practice reaching out. We all need to practice asking if someone we care about wants to be helped, heard, or hugged. We all need practice engaging in high-quality listening and extending grace to ourselves and others when we fall short of being as helpful as we might want to be. The good news is that we have plenty of opportunities to practice those things right here at Sunnyhill. One of the best ways you can practice the skills of high-quality listening and being supportive is to join one of our sharing circles, which will be starting in just a few weeks, and I strongly encourage you to sign up for one of our circles. We heard about Bill's experience of sharing circles earlier, and we'll have a table in the fellowship hall after this service where you can learn more. We also have our caring team, which puts the emphasis on the help part
of helped, heard, or hugged. The caring team provides support in the form of meals, rides, and other short-term gestures of support for Sunnyhill members going through challenging circumstances. And if you want someone just to listen without burying you in unsolicited advice, members of our pastoral care team are available to be that listening presence for you in whatever way they can. And you can find out more about both the caring and pastoral care teams either today or at our participation fair after the service on September 10th. I encourage you to practice being present for others deeply and authentically whenever and however you can. Because the better we are at being present for one another, helping, hearing, hugging, the better able we will be to fulfill our mission to build a more just and compassionate community, both within and beyond our walls. I hope and pray that we will practice being present for one another, that we will allow ourselves the grace to fail and to try again, and that as a result, somehow, whether we say it or not, all will indeed be well. May it be so. Amen. Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing our hymn, Love Will Guide Us.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. You are no other being. What you can give, no other can give. To the future of our precious children, to the future of the world where we live. Hear the song of peace within you. Hear the song of peace in your heart. Spring's new beginning shall lead to the harvest. Love will guide us on our way. Love will guide us. Peace has tried us. Hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Yeah, thank you.
It's time for our morning offering. This week, distributions from the, let me fix that. Today's designated offering will go toward the minister's discretionary fund, which provides confidential assistance to Sunnyhill members or friends of the community who have emergency financial needs. Loss of a job, illness, and other life changes sometimes result in dire circumstances. And sometimes being hugged or heard is just not enough. So the minister's discretionary fund enables the congregation to provide financial support in these difficult situations. If you'd like to make a gift via our online giving system, you can do so by going to sunnyhill.org and click on the button that says Online Giving. Then follow the instructions. Or if you'd like, you can give by text at 412-324-3130. For those of you who are here with us in person, we'll be passing around the offering baskets in just a moment. And thank you, everyone, for your generosity. It's time for us to extinguish the chalice. Please join me in saying the words to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this chalice, flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Just a couple of brief announcements. As I mentioned before, we'll have a table in our fellowship hall for people that are interested in sharing circles or in caring team or pastoral care team. Also, some of you are familiar with the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at the University of Pittsburgh, a membership-based community of adults age 50 and better who are passionate about learning. Classes are offered in a wide variety of subjects, some online and some in person. It says here, no tests, no grades, and no degree requirements. What could be better? Elaine Guha and Leslie Holmes will be at a table in a fellowship hall during coffee and conversation to answer any questions you may have about that program. We'll close with these words. As you prepare to leave this sacred space, pack away a piece of this church in your heart. Wrap it carefully like a precious gem. Carry it with you through the joys and sorrows of your days. Let its gentle glow strengthen you, warm you, remind you of all that is good and true until we gather here again in this place of love. Go in peace, radiating compassion and seeking justice.